Hi, I'm Caitlin Classing from Classing Equestrian here with the May training vlog for Limelight LF, aka Lisi. Lisi came to us towards the beginning of April from her owner, ML Selzer, with the goal of being produced with the Young Event Horse series in mind. So Lisi came with quite a strong riding resume when she came to us, but as Dan and I have long believed, the fastest way to get somewhere is to go there slowly. So rather than just lead her up to the mounting block and get on, we started her with some groundwork as we would with every young horse that were to come into our program. So you can see Dan working with her in the stall, just making sure that she's very confirmed in the idea that she moves forward from the pressure from driving aids, or as we'd say in an older horse, that she stays in front of the leg. We always like to think if you can control the horse's hind feet, then you can control the horse. And now you can see Dan, again, working in an enclosed space in our indoor. And he's using the walls of the indoor much like he did the walls of the stall, helping her turn so that she can't get away from pressure. Just by yielding out from it, she has to go forward from pressure from both legs. And then you can see as the ride progresses, he's able to stay quite light in the saddle, and she's moving very confidently forward, just carrying him. She has a little canter each way here in this next clip. And we felt like, as we expected, with a horse that had been quite well started, she was able to sort of progress quickly through this little review session that we had for her and move on to the next stage of her education. So now we just have a few clips over the next couple weeks so you can see how her training progresses. We've moved on here. We're in an open area, but again, the main focus of the rides is just to make sure that she's very confident in moving forward from Dan's leg. She's quite an uphill, well-balanced horse, so Dan's able to ride quite forward and ask her to start to use some pushing power from behind and start to reach across her top line with that pushing power rather than pull herself along. The expectation being that she starts to work a little bit more correctly over her through her whole body. And here we're probably a couple days later, and you can see again the ride is quite forward, but the shape of Lisi has started to change. She's now getting a little bit longer from her tail out to her ears as she starts to reach out to the contact rather than Dan holding the contact. So she's putting a little bit of weight out at the end of the reins, creating that pushing power, creating that swing across her whole body. And you can start to see what a lovely mover she is here. And here we are probably a week or so after that. Again, the focus of the ride is getting her up in front of the leg, but now it's less about using speed, and you can see that she started to develop a little bit more rhythm in her trot and carry that frame a little bit more naturally without Dan having to push her quite so forward. Now she starts to carry herself out to the bridle a little bit more correctly without needing to be quite as forward as she did the first couple weeks of her training. But still you can see that her shape stays quite long from her tail out to her ears, and she's reaching out for the bit, consistently pushing, creating a really nice steady rhythm. So here was just a few days ago, and this would be the first day that we started Lisi over fences with us. But as you can see, just here in the trot work, as Dan gets her started, the quality of her work for us is improving every day. She's really a very smart mare, and she's picked up very quickly on the ways in which we want her to work consistently. So there Dan starts. We start with just the poles on the ground, and then he trots the single jump here, making sure that she stays consistent in her rhythm, both to and away from the jumps. And as she's starting to understand on the flat that Dan can rebalance her from her leg, we want her to have that same idea here as she starts to jump, so that rather than looking to Dan's hand for balance, he can close his leg and she starts to rebalance on her hind end and carry herself in her own balance, her own rhythm. So we're jumping off of a turn here, and you can see as she comes to the fence, she wants to get a little bit quick. And a lot of times with a young horse, you can use a turn or use a little bit of a lateral work to make sure that you can keep putting your leg on when they get a little bit quick rather than going to your hand. So you see Dan using the turn to help him get her quite close to the fence so that the fence doesn't lengthen her stride. And then again, he's using the turn away from the jump to help her accept his leg and not look to his hand for balance. So it's not his inside rein pulling that's getting her to turn, but it's his outside leg closing. And we change direction, and same thing, Dan's going to use the turn to make sure that he can put his leg on and keep rebalancing her onto her hind end. And we're looking for the same thing in the canter as we wanted in the trot, that consistent rhythm to and away from the jumps. So here she's starting to settle a little bit, hold her own balance, just like we expect on the flat work. She's reaching out for Dan's hand, but not looking to his hand for balance. Really good. It's been a lot of fun to get to know Lisi over this past month. We think that she's a really lovely horse, and we're looking forward to continuing to produce her. It's worth noting that in addition to all the ring work, she's been doing a lot of hacking out, and we'll keep you posted on how things progress.